viewers, how are you doing? Are you good? We good here. This is the mid-morning show. I am your host Lilian Thomas, and I am glad that you've joined us today, right here at Our Farmers. Today we had a little bit of technical challenges in the morning. We wouldn't broadcast our usual breakfast show, but we had some time to do for you the mid-morning show, and I hope that you'll get to learn something today, just as we always do each other single day. If you are watching me for the first time, subscribe to our pages on Facebook. We are Our Farmers. On YouTube, we are Our Farmers Media, and you will be getting our content as we upload it. And for every live video, you will always be notified, and you can be joining us for our discussions. Wow. Now, on this note, how are you doing? Honestly, like, how are you doing? How is your day coming along? How is everything working out for you? It is almost midday. It is almost midday. What have you done up to now? Whatever you are doing, are things running well? Are they running well? Are things working out for you? Did you wake up in good health? I hope so. Are you being productive? Because we are almost approaching midday and the day will soon come to an end. Are you being productive? How good has your day been? Kindly, let us know, let us know. We love your opinions. We love your opinions. We want to hear from you. We want to hear from you. And you can always do that on our pages. On Facebook, we are Our Farmers Media. On YouTube, we are at Our Farmers Media. You can keep sending us your comments, your feedback. We'll be sampling them towards, as we progress with the show, we'll be sampling your feedback as we progress with the show. So this week we've been looking at sustainable agriculture. This week we've been looking at sustainable agriculture as a whole thing, and we've broken it down since Monday. So Monday we generally covered sustainable agriculture. On Tuesday we did conservational agriculture, and it has been a very informative section we've been doing. Yesterday we did zero hunger based on the second SDG goal that we are working towards 2030. And today I want to look at food waste and loss. We'd like to hear your opinions about the topic. Would like to know, what do you think? What do you think about the topic? As a farmer, what do you understand by food waste and food loss? Or as a person in the agriculture industry, what do you understand by food waste and food loss? That's the kind of discussion we're going to be having today. And you can keep sending us your comments in the comment section on Facebook. We are Our Farmers. On YouTube, Our Farmers Media. Give us your thoughts about the topic, and then we'll be sampling them as we progress with the show. As usual, I usually start with I will remind you of COVID. Yes, I will remind you of COVID, especially here in Kenya. We had some addressing yesterday, and I will remind you that COVID is around. COVID is around, and we still need to take the precautionary measures that the government has put in place for us. So you make sure you put on your mask whenever you are in public. Put on your mask, let it cover your nose and mouth. Wash your hands, sanitize, and keep social distance whenever you are in public. And let us not forget, if you have no other business outside, make sure you're staying at home. Make sure you're staying at home. We need to flatten the curve. Like right now in Kenya, we have like five five counties whereby we have like a lockdown, cessation of movement in Kiambu, Nakuru, Nairobi, Kajiado, and Machakos. And it's not easy. I know most people are affected, especially like people in the hotel industry. I know they are really affected because I saw some people being laid off, and it's quite hard, quite challenging for them. So we would like to flatten the curve. Make sure you are maintaining the precautionary measures we have around. Just before we jump into our topic of the day, as usual, we always start with a quote of the day. We always start with the quote of the day. Yesterday, our quote was make today matter. And today my quote is one day at a time. As simple as it sounds, one day at a time. One day at a time, we will be talking a little bit more about it as we progress with the show. And I don't know, um, depending on how you take life. Personally, me, I believe in living a single day at a time. Everything you have to do, live a single day at a time. I feel like people have too much pressure, trying to accomplish too much, but we'll be talking about that. Our topic today is food waste and loss. Food waste and loss. As we started our discussion on sustainable agriculture, there's something that came about in the discussion, and we realized that actually the food that is produced, the agricultural produce that is produced, never never consumed the whole of it. Some is lost while still in the supply chains, and then the other at the consumption level. We lose a lot of food. And the statistics we have is that we lose 30% of the food that is produced, which is quite worrying considering we have cases of hunger. Yesterday, we were doing something on zero hunger. We have cases of hunger. We said we have around 795 million people who go to who go to bed hungry at night, each single night. 79 795 million is quite a big number. But yet, we have a condition whereby out of all the food that is produced, we actually lose 30% of it. 30%, meaning the only food that is put into use is 70%. On this 30% of food that is lost, if we were to attach figures to it, it will be losing 1.3 billion tons in a year, which is too much. 1.3 billion tons in a year of food is lost along the way, either in the supply chain or at the consumption level. And yet we are working towards, because we are aiming with the SDG goals we have around, we are aiming at attaining zero hunger by the time we are getting to 2030. But how possible will it be considering that we have a very high percentage of food waste and food loss currently in the world? It kind of becomes hectic because of the conditions we have around. It is not very easy. It is quite hard. It is quite hard considering we have people who are still sleeping hungry, and yet we are still losing food. There is a gap in between. There is a gap in between. And that's exactly what I want us to discuss. We will try and identify where actually this food, the process in which this food gets lost, where exactly do we lose food as we do our supplying and at the consumption level. And then we'll also try and look at the levels we can actually reduce food loss and food wastage. I would like to hear your feedback, what you think about the topic. So make sure you are writing your feedback on our comment section. On Facebook, we are A Farmers. On YouTube, we are at A Farmers Media. And we will be sampling that towards the end of the show. As the show progresses, we'll just be sampling your feedback. So make sure you are talking to us. I will start by defining food loss and food waste. Food waste and food loss. Food loss is the decrease in the quantity and the quality of actually the produce. It is the decrease in the quantity and the quality of the produce when it is in the supply chain. When it is in the supply chain. So it works as from harvesting period until to the point where it gets to the markets. So in between, so it can cover something from post-harvest losses. It is something about post-harvest losses and everything along the supply chain as you try to get to the markets. And then we have food waste. Food waste actually now starts after we have food in the market. Whatever happens after that, that's where we can actually experience food waste. So it happens from wherever we are getting the food to the market to the point of consumption by the consumer. So it is the decrease in the quality and quantity of food along the consumption level. Okay? I think you understand me up to that point. So we have food waste majorly, food loss majorly dealing with the post-harvest losses, and then we have food waste at the consumption level. So meaning we are all partakers of this thing. So we have the producers here in the post-harvest level, and then we have the consumers at the consumption level, actually contributing to food waste. And funny thing, there is a difference, especially when we are comparing the type of countries we have around. In the developed countries, most of the food that is lost is actually lost at the consumption level. It is lost at the consumption level. So for them, it starts from buying the food until they consume the food. That's where they lose majority of their food. But it's the opposite for the developing countries. And the developing countries, I know, my people in Africa, we are talking about us. Um, we lose most of our food in the supply chain, especially from harvesting. So post-harvest losses, and then as we try to get our food to the market, that's where we lose our food. And you see, it all actually contributes to a larger part. And we've said it is 30% of the food is lost, 1.6 billion tons, which is a very, very big number. And if you are to look at it in economic terms, we are losing at around 940 US dollars billion in 1 year. So that is our whole economic. We are pulling down because we are losing food. We are losing food. And remember yesterday when we were talking about zero hunger, we said we have 795 million people who sleep hungry each night. But the food we lose in a year, the food we lose in a year, the 1.3 billion tons that we lose in a year can actually feed 1.6 billion people, meaning it can actually surpass the number of the hungry people that we have. Because if we are comparing the statistics, if we can use this food to feed 1.6 billion people, and yet we have 795 million people sleeping hungry, we actually have surplus. If we are to do everything right and ensure that we reduce the food wastage and food loss that we have, we can actually feed the hungry people that we have in the world and actually remain with surplus, which is what we are aiming at by the time we are getting to 2030. As we said yesterday, we are aiming at attaining zero hunger. Zero hunger, achieving maximum food security all over the world. All over the world. All over the world, we want to achieve maximum food security and attain zero hunger. But we have a lot of things hindering the process. A lot of things are happening around, and we really need to figure out what exactly happens that makes us lose food in the process. What exactly happens that makes us lose food in the process? How can we actually get past that menace that we have around, in that we reduce the number of food we are losing and we reduce the number of food that is being wasted? Because we said we have different types happening here. In the developing countries, we are losing it in the supply chain. In the developed countries, we are losing it at the consumer level. We need to find a solution. We need to find a solution. And that's exactly what we are talking about. I will remind you again, if you have feedback and you would like to talk to us, please send us your comments in our comment section. Write your comments in our comment section. On Facebook, we are a farmers. On YouTube, we are at a farmers media. We want to know, if you are a farmer, I would really like to know, is there a point whereby you have actually, because I know most of the people listening to me are in the developing countries, is there a time where you feel like you have experienced losses, especially from the harvest period? Or sometimes it actually even starts before we get to harvesting period. So it's a whole chain that starts from pre-harvesting to post-harvesting in the supply chain until you get to the market. Do you have an experience of actually losing food or produce along this chain? Do you? What was the amount of food you lost? What was the amount of food you lost? And calculating it economically. Approximately how much did you lose? Approximately how much did you lose? And we'd really like to know what exactly made you to lose whatever you lost. Because we have different causes of the loss, we would like to know what actually affected you so much that you lost your produce along the chain. Send us your comments Send us your feedback. On Facebook, we are A Farmers. On YouTube, we are at A Farmers Media, and we will be sampling your feedback as we progress with the show. And you can also tell me where you're watching the show from. I'd really like to know where you're watching the show from. Please make sure you are talking to me, and I will appreciate that. Currently in Kenya, we had hunger and drought in 2017. In the same 2017, we had very interesting statistics. So we had hunger, we had starvation crisis in the country. But in the same year, we actually recorded 1.9 million tons that were lost as food. We lost food in a very huge amount, 1.9 million tons. And yet, the same year, we actually had hunger and starvation crisis. Do you understand what I am trying to say? We have a gap somewhere. We have a gap somewhere. We have food. We are producing food. But is this food actually getting to the consumer? Is it? Is it? Are the consumers actually benefiting from this food? Why do we still have hunger crises and starvation in the world today, and yet we are actually producing food that is actually being wasted and being lost along the process? Why is this actually happening in the 21st century? I was bothered, especially yesterday when I told you the story about the woman who had to pick between her staying alive and the child staying alive because they had inadequate food. We are not supposed to be at that level, especially right now in the 21st century. Like, for crying out loud, we are in the 21st century. We have all the technology we need. But then again, why do we have hungry people? Cases of starvation. It's like, are we living 1975? No. Are we living in the 19th century? No. Why is this happening? Why are we losing food? Why are we losing food? Why are we producing food and still losing it? What are we not doing? What should we do? What should we improve? It's a whole discussion that everyone in the agriculture industry should actually be looking at. From the farmer level, the consumer, we also need our governments to help us here. We can't have a case of hunger and starvation in the country, yet we are still having food loss in the same country. There is a gap somewhere that needs to be bridged kidogo too. We just need to fill that gap, and try to connect these two sides about people going to bed hungry and us having food that we are actually losing when we should not be losing food at this point. You know, in Kenya, we actually like lose 20% of all our harvest. So generally in the whole world, we are losing 30% of the food produced in the entire world. When I come specifically to Kenya, we are losing 20% of our harvest. So we are remaining with 80%. This 80%, some of it will actually be lost in the consumer level. And that's why we have a crisis, because the food we are producing is actually lost along the way. And then whatever gets to the market, by the time it is at the consumer level, we are also losing. So if we lose 20% at the supply level, we remain with the 80%, and then lose another 30% at the consumer level, and we are left with 50%. This 50% is supposed to feed an entire nation. It's not surprising that we actually have hunger cases in the country. It is not surprising that we will have people in the country actually having one meal a day. It will not be surprising. And I really like what the government is trying to do with the Big Four agenda, which agriculture is one of the agendas. They actually are trying to work something out to try and get to 15% of the harvest lost by the time we are getting to 2022. I don't know how possible it is, but at least they are trying to make an effort. So we are aiming at 15% loss from 20%. From 20%, we want to get to 15% loss. And I said, I remind you again, our quest is one day at a time. So we are going step by step. We want to reduce it to 15%. By the time we are again getting to something like 2027, we might have reduced it by around 10%. By the time we are getting to 30%, we might be below 10%, meaning we will have more food in the country. Actually, it will ensure food security in the country. The developed countries are not any different from the developing countries. But the developed countries are actually struggling at a different level that they should, that we are not struggling as such. As in Kenya, we are struggling from the initial levels, from the farm. How you do your things, how you practice your thing will actually determine a lot if you are to get your produce without wasting, without losing your produce. So it actually starts for us from the farm. Whatever we do in our farm, the practices we do in our farm, we get to the harvesting period. In the harvesting period, how do we harvest? What precautions do we take? That actually matters. So that is post harvest. Along the supply chain, as we are trying to get to the market, we also have other challenges along the market. How do we actually sort these out? How do we actually sort these out? And I told you, if you are a farmer and you have experienced losses with your produce, we would really, really like to hear from you. We would really like to know what exactly happened that made you lose your food. What exactly happened that made you lose your food? Did you find a solution to it? Did you find a solution? What solution, what measures have you taken up to ensure that you are not losing any more food in the near future as we try to attain maximum food security in our countries and get to a level where we are attaining zero hunger in the world? We would really like to know what measures you took. We would like to know what actually happened for you to lose your food in terms of the economics. How much did you lose in the process? How much did you lose in the process? It is a whole discussion. It is a whole discussion. And that's why I want you to give me your feedback. I don't want to, because I feel like if you told me what exactly happened from your side, it would make sense than me coming and telling you exactly what I think should be happening. I'd like to know. It is Thursday. Actually, Thursdays here at our farmers, we usually have Sauti ya Mukulima. We like to hear from you. We like to hear from you. Our work here at our farmers is to tell the story of the African farmer. You are our African farmer as you are watching us, as you are listening to us, wherever you are listening to us from. We'd like to know your story. Let's share your story. Some other farmer might learn one or two things from it. One or two things can be learned from your story. So I will go back again to the thing that happened in 2017 in Kenya. We had hunger, we had cases of starvation, we had food being lost. And I said we had 1.9 million tons of food being lost, which can be equated to 150 billion shillings being lost in 1 year. That is quite such a huge amount. Of these things, most farmers in Kenya, actually, when you walk around Kenya, I didn't know if there is a farmer who doesn't produce maize. Unless you are specifically a horticulture farmer, because I know the local mamas in the rural areas and in all these places, they usually have maize in their farms. But do you know the funny thing? In 2017, the same year we were having hunger and drought, and we also had starvation cases. At the same time, we had food loss happening in the country. We actually, in this food loss, because most people actually grow maize, we actually lost 6 million bags of maize. So, maize was produced, and then this maize actually didn't serve the purpose it was produced for. Because if we are producing maize, this maize is meant for consumption. If it is not being consumed and it has to be thrown away, we are losing it. We lost 6 million bags. And you know the funny thing? We actually exported maize. We produced maize, but we lost it in the process, either in the supply chain or at the consumption level. We lost the maize. How many bags? 6 million bags of maize. And then we had to go back into our pockets and actually import maize into the country for our people to consume. And we spent like 29.6 billion trying to import food back into the country. That is roughly 30 billion. We are spending 30 billion to import food into the country, yet we are losing 6 million bags of maize. Doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up. It just doesn't make sense. Not at all. It is actually even not supposed to be happening. Why are we losing food and then we have to get food from another country to come and consume? What exactly are we doing wrong? What exactly do we need to be doing at this time for us to avoid making such mistakes again over and over? That we need to get rid of this food wastage and food loss crisis. What exactly do we need to do to get to that point? Where exactly did we go wrong in the country at such a time like 2017, whereby we are losing close to 1.9 million tons of food in the same year. In the same year, we have cases of hunger and starvation. In the same year, we have lost 6 million bags of maize. And then we are using money to get food. We are using approximately 30 billion to get food. That is a lot. That is a lot. It is a lot for the consumer, for the producer, because I am trying to think about the producer. An assumption, if I am to make an assumption that this food is lost from the farm level, so from the management in the farm, we are coming to the harvest, post harvest, as they try to get it to the market. So it is within this link, the supply chain link. Okay, this farmer invested in planting the maize. This farmer invested some money in planting the maize, and then all these things have happened along the way. At the end of the period, what is the farmer's condition? What is the farmer's condition? What are they gaining back economically? How is it working for them? How is it working for them? How do they go about it? Because you had food and then you lose food. What do you do when you lose food? Because I feel like the farmers out here now are struggling. What do they do when they lose food? Because it's not easy that you have produced food and then you are losing food in the process. And most of it we've said in the developing countries. We are actually losing it here in the supply chain link. The farmer is making losses at the end of the period. At the end of the period, we have less food in the country. At the end of the period, the country has food insecurity. We will continue having hunger crises, and we actually can't, we will not be able to manage attaining zero hunger at the end of by the time we are getting to 2030. Yes, the SDG goals are aiming at 2030. By the time we are getting to 2030, we might not have attained zero hunger. I want you to tell me, let's just have this discussion going on. Tell me, what do you think is actually making us lose food as we are losing? What do you think can be done to avoid losing food as we are losing? And if you are a farmer and you've had an experience of losing food, kindly share with us. Share with us your thoughts. Leave us a message on the comment section. On Facebook, we are a farmers. On YouTube, we are at a farmers media. And this is the mid morning show. This is the mid morning show, and we are exploring food waste and food loss. Let's have the discussion going on Facebook, our farmers, on YouTube at our farmers media. We're going to take a short break, but keep sending me your feedback. I'll be sampling that in the second part of the show if you'll send me your feedback. We'll take a short break, and we'll be right back after this. Make sure you stay tuned.
Watermelon is a trailing vine in the gourd family. The word melon can refer to either the plant or specifically to the fruit. Watermelon is a type of melon that is sweet and refreshing fruit. Watermelons can either be grown on home gardens for small-scale farmers or large-scale depending on the market demand. You can either transplant or plant watermelon seeds directly. For best performance, plant watermelons in hot, sunny locations with loose, fertile, well-drained soil that is rich in organic matter. It is best to plant watermelons on raised rows and ensure that the soil pH is between 6.0 to 6.8. On average, it takes around 3 months for a watermelon to grow from seed to mature fruit, with smaller varieties having shorter growing times than larger varieties of watermelon. Watermelon growing, if done rationally and on a scalable basis, can be a good source of income.
Welcome back. This is the Mid Morning Show. I am your host, Lillian Thomas, and I am so glad that you're joining me for this show. I am glad that you've been with me since I started. This is the second part of the show, and I am glad that you are watching. Today, we are talking about food loss and food waste. Food loss and food waste. And I said, if you have any experience as a farmer or someone in the agriculture industry, you have experienced food loss or food waste at some point, give me your feedback. Give me your feedback. On Facebook, we are a farmers. On YouTube, we are at a farmers media. I'd also like to know what actually made you incur the food loss and the food wastage. And what solutions did you find for your problem? Actually, what are you doing right now? What measures did you take in order for you to actually avoid getting the problem again? If you are joining us for the first time, kindly make sure you are subscribing to our pages. On YouTube, we are at a farmers media. Subscribe, like, please share the link. We will be glad if you do. Please share the link. So, like, share, subscribe. We are at a farmers media on YouTube. And on Facebook, we are a farmers. On YouTube, you can actually hit the notification bell. Anytime we are going live, you will be notified. But you don't even actually need to be notified for that. I'll always tell you, we have shows from morning to evening. In the morning, we have the breakfast show that I usually host. We have the mid-morning show coming in at 11:30 that Noah Nasiali Kadima hosts. And then we'll be having the farm drive at 3 p.m. with Conrad Kibe. So make sure you are staying tuned in for our shows. And I said, send me your feedback and I'll be reading your feedback. So I will get into your feedback in a few as we continue with this discussion that we are having today. Our quote today was one day at a time. One day at a time. I don't know what your interpretation of the quote is, but if you also like to share about that, make sure you are doing so in our comment section on Facebook. I'll be reading that as we get towards the end of the show. But our quote today is one day at a time. One day at a time. Yesterday, I had a quote for you, and it was make today matter. Today is one day at a time. One day at a time. We will just be doing a small interpretation of what I understand from it and why I chose that as my quote of the day for you people. How productive are you being? How far is your day? How far is your day? How productive are you being? How is your day going on? Where are you watching me from? Kindly let me know on the comment section. On Facebook, we are a farmers. On YouTube, we are at a farmers media. And I am going to start with let me do for you. I told you we will always be updating you, especially for people who rarely who are rarely updated about the weather. I'll be doing for you the weather updates. If you are planning on doing anything, you'd rather know what you expect out here, especially if you are a farmer, for you to know the activities you need to be doing in the farm, you have to be aware of the weather updates. So I will start with the Lake Victoria Basin, the highlands, the west of Rift Valley, and the south and central Rift Valley region. So it includes Siaya, Kisumu, Homa Bay, Migori, Kisii, Nyamira, Trans Nzoia, Baringo, Uasin Gishu, Elgeyo Marakwet, Nandi, Nakuru, Narok, Kericho, Bomet, Kakamega, Vihiga, Bungoma, and Busia counties. So it's majorly the Nyanza region and the Western region, the former Western province, the former Nyanza province, and the former Rift Valley province. So today is 15th of April. So in the morning, you are expecting a chance of rains over a few places. In the afternoon, you might be having showers and thunderstorms over a few places. At night, you might be having showers over a few places. The highest temperature today will be 29 degrees. The lowest temperatures will be 12 degrees. Another region, which is the Northwest region, Turkana, West Pokot, and Samburu counties, Watu wa Maralal. In the morning, you are expected to be having a chance of rains over a few places. In the afternoon, you have sunny intervals. At night, it will be partly cloudy. Highest temperatures, that's 7 degrees, lowest 22 degrees. The highlands east of the Rift Valley, which includes Nairobi, Nyandarua, Laikipia, Nyeri, Kirinyaga, Murang'a, Kiambu, Meru, Embu, Tharaka Nithi. In the morning, you are expected to be having a little bit, kidogo tu. A little bit, you are expected to be having a chance of rains over a few places. In the afternoon, you are supposed to be having sunny intervals. In the evening, partly cloudy, that's 7 degrees, 22 degrees. So, Nairobi, Nyandarua, you are expected to be having cloudy breaking into sunny intervals in the morning, showers over a few places in the afternoon, showers over a few places in at the night time. Highest temperatures 27 degrees, lowest 8 degrees. You people are expecting showers, especially if you are in Nairobi. Make sure you are keeping warm and you carry your sweaters, carry your umbrella, make sure you have all these things as you go by your day. I have another region, the Northeast, which covers Marsabit, Mandera, Wajir, Garissa, and Isiolo counties. In the morning, you are expecting a chance of rains over a few places. In the afternoon, you are having sunny intervals. At night, it will be partly cloudy. And the highest temperatures 6 degrees, lowest 18 degrees centigrade. Okay, so what other region have I left out? The southeastern lowlands, Kitui, Makueni, Machakos, Kajiado, watu wangu wa county 034. By the way, we are in county 034. We are in Kitengela. So, and Taita Taveta, this is what you expect. In the morning, a chance of few rains. In the afternoon, showers over a few places. At the night, showers over a few places. Highest temperature 32, lowest 16. And then lastly, watu wetu wa coast. The coastal region, Mombasa, Tana River, Kilifi, Lamu, and Kwale counties, you are having chance of showers in the morning, sunny intervals in the afternoon, chance of showers in the evening at the night. That 5 degrees highest temperature, 25 degrees lowest temperature. Yes, those are the weather updates for you. Make sure you are acting right according to the weather, starting with you personally, from whatever you are dressing in, whatever you are doing. Make sure you have that in mind. As a farmer, the activities you do in your farm. On Monday, we did something on farm plan, and I told you on farm plan, when you are having, especially you have very heavy rains, you can't be applying your fertilizers when you are having heavy rains. You can't be applying fertilizers when are having very dry conditions. So the weather is very important for you. Make sure you are updated with the daily weather updates each single day. Our topic today is food waste and food loss. I will start with your feedback. So I have Walter Jalini, a good friend of mine. He says he is following. Thank you so much, Walter, for watching this show. I have Machuki Machuki. Machuki says he is watching the show from Kisi. Thank you so much, Machuki, for watching the show. Make sure you're tuned in for more of our shows. We have the farm drive in the evening. Tomorrow morning, I will be coming in for the breakfast show at 8:30. Make sure you are staying tuned in. So Machuki gives us other feedback, and he says, food loss and wastage starts from failing to embrace agriculture. Land is by a larger percent used for other purposes like real estate development rather than giving priority to improved forms of agriculture. Interesting. He also says we need proper storage facilities. Sometimes we hear the government claim that millions of bags of maize to be destroyed because they possess aflatoxin. That is actually what happened in 2017. That's what I was telling you about. In 2017, we lost 6 million bags of maize. Why? Poor storage conditions. The moment you store maize in poor storage conditions and it is a humid place and there is cold, it is very susceptible to be attacked by fungi, which actually causes aflatoxin. And you can't consume the maize. Once it has aflatoxin, we can't consume the maize. So it is about the storage facilities. And I really like what you've said, Machuki. We need proper storage facilities. Sometimes we hear the government claim that millions of bags of maize to be destroyed because they possess aflatoxin. Okay. And he has also said that we have not embraced agriculture. Large of our land, we are actually using it for development purposes, like real estate development, other than giving priority to improved forms of agriculture. Wow, Machuki. Thank you. Thank you so much for your feedback. Keep sending me your feedback about food loss and food waste. That's what we are talking about here today in the Mid Morning Show. I am your host, Lilian Thomas. I need your feedback on the comment section. On Facebook, we are a farmers. On YouTube, we are at a farmers media. And I want us to get back to our discussion even before we went to the break. We actually explained what food loss is and food wastage is, and we realized food loss actually happens in between the production period to the point of marketing the produce, and then food wastage actually happens from marketing to the consumption period. So in between, food wastage mostly happens within the consumers. Food wastage happens along the supply chain. And we realized in Kenya we actually lost food. I will use Kenya as an example. I know I have people from Nigeria who might be watching, and from Zambia, and my good friend from Liberia. Yes, I know you might be watching the show. You can actually tell me about what is happening in your country. I'd really like to know about the conditions concerning food loss and food waste in your country. We would like to compare these African countries and see what are we doing that we are not supposed to be doing. What is the other country doing better than we are doing that we can use to improve on whatever we are doing as a country? More specifically, let me talk about Kenya. So in 2017, we had hunger crisis, we had starvation crisis. In the same year, we actually were losing food. We lost 6 million bags of maize. The total amount of food we lost was 1.9 million tons in that year, which can actually, if we are to equate it economically, it is 150 billion shillings. In Kenya, maize is the staple food. Maize is the staple food. Everyone, I think they live on ugali. Ugali is the staple food in Kenya. Most people eat ugali. So the moment we are losing 6 million bags of maize in 1 year, and this maize is needed for consumption in the country, what do we resort to? We resort to importing maize from a different country. And in 2017, we actually used 42 billion to import maize into the country. Reason being, our maize got spoiled during the storage. And during the storage, the maize actually had aflatoxin. Aflatoxin, you can't consume anything with aflatoxin. It is toxic for you, it is not good for you. So you have to throw away the maize. This farmer produced maize. This farmer produced maize with hopes of, let me talk about a farmer who does this economically. We've always said here at our farmers, agriculture is a business. We are doing it as a business. It is agribusiness for us. So I will make an assumption that this farmer actually grew the maize for sale to be able to make profits from it, right? And then you grow the maize, you go to store it just before it gets to the market level, maybe. You store it and you have not very good conditions for storage, and then your food is lost here while you have it stored. You haven't sold it, you haven't made any money from it, you haven't made back your returns. Starting from the, we always say input and output. Whatever we invest in, whatever we get out of it should be more than what we invested in for us to be able to gain profits. That's the logic. It is a business. That's the logic. But I have input, let's say 40,000. I used 40K for my input. This 40K is already spent. By the time we are getting to harvesting period, we remember the 40K is already spent. 40 Gs, a good 40 Gs is already spent. I harvest, I never get to sell my produce. So I don't have my 40 Gs. The food is spoiled. I can't sell it. So I am not getting back my 40 Gs. I am not getting back my profit for the time I spent, the resources I used. I am not getting anything out of it. So 40 Gs gone just like that. Just like that. The 40 Gs are gone. This farmer will have a hard time if he wants to get back again to farming the next season. It will be a little bit too difficult. It will be a little bit too difficult. In a few, I want us to look at what actually caused what actually causes the loss that we are experiencing in this agriculture industry, especially with food. But in 2017, when we lost food in Kenya, the Kenya National of Bureau Statistics actually gave us some reasons of why we actually lost the maize and the food that we lost. And economically, we lost 150 billion shillings. So they said there was a problem with the management. The management here, we are talking in terms of from the production. There was a problem in the management while producing food. They gave the second reason as storage. So we had a little mishaps during storage. And then the third reason they gave us was transportation as we try to get the food to the market. So we have three reasons that the Kenya National of Bureau Statistics gave to us as a reason why we lost a lot of food in that year. We lost 1.6 million tons of food. We lost 6 million bags of food. If we are to do this in economic terms, we lost 29.6 billion. That is 30 billion shillings. That is a lot. So they gave us their reasons. They gave us their reasons. The maize was lost because of aflatoxin. The maize was exposed to moisture. The moment you expose maize to moisture while it is in storage, it is attacked by fungi. This fungi causes aflatoxin, which is a toxin, and a toxin is something that is toxic. You can't consume, it is harmful to your health. So you have to throw away the maize. So we have 6 million bags of maize being thrown away because of aflatoxin. And we've accredited this to the moisture conditions in the storage facilities, meaning we have a problem with our storage facilities. We will be looking at that. In other parts, they say the maize was lost because of rodents. You see, rats, mouse, these two rodents, while you're storing your food, and they kind of get into your storage facility and they decide to feast on your food, which is not easy, which is not easy. So we are losing food to very basic things that can actually be avoided. Something that we could easily avoid as a country, something we can easily avoid as a continent, because I know I am talking to people in Africa. Something we can easily avoid as a continent and stop having this picture of, Africa is known for hunger, starvation. Like you always see, I don't know, is it just me, but you always see on media the way Africa is depicted. You always find they will put up a image of a small child with torn clothes, barefoot, looking very shaggy, and actually the child looks distressed. Hunger crisis. They always post photos of African children, suffering. It is a matter of suffering in Africa. But do you know that we have the resources? Do you know that we have the resources that can actually make us succeed in whatever we are doing in agriculture, ensure food security in Africa as a continent? We can be able to sustain ourselves as a continent. We have land, we have water. Our climate is quite conducive. In Africa, we don't have things like winter, so we can do anything. No, we don't. Our weather, if we are to manipulate it all year round, we can actually be planting. During the long rain season, plant whatever needs long rains. During the short season, actually plant whatever works well in short rain conditions. But is that what we are doing as Africans? No. And then we will keep questioning, why are we being depicted in a certain way in the world? Because we are not doing things right. We are not doing things right. It's not like we lack food. We have food. But why is the food being wasted and lost in the process? That's exactly what we are going to be looking at. We want to look at the causes of loss. What is making us lose food in our countries? Machuki has mentioned something about storage. We will be getting into that in a few. We will be looking at how are we affected the moment we lose food? How are we affected the moment we lose food in the country? And also we will be discussing about what can we do to ensure that we are reducing the percentage levels. We said in Kenya currently we are at 20% food loss and food wastage. We need to get to 15% by 2022. 2022 is like coming tomorrow, like we'll be in 2022 next year. We need to have attained at 15%. In the world, we are at 30% food wastage. Yet, we are aiming at zero hunger by 2030. And also, the 12th SDG goal talks about ensuring sustainable consumption. The SDG goals are really focused on this agriculture industry, because yesterday we covered the second one, which is focusing in zero hunger. Today we are more into the 12th one, which is focusing on ensuring sustainable consumption of food that is produced. Sawa. Yes. So we are going to be looking at the causes of loss, the consequences of the loss, and the solutions of what we can do. But just before we do that, Just before we do that, I like to I will remind you the quote of the day, which was the quote of the day, one day at a time. One day at a time. I would like to give you a random fact in the agriculture industry. I am sorry, it might not be helpful. It will not help you in any way. Definitely, it will not help you in any way. But it is an interesting fact. So I'll just say it because it is an interesting fact, as much as it won't help you in any way. There's no way you're going to use that. Nah, but I'll just mention it. Uh, what is the longest recorded flight by a chicken? Do chickens fly? Have you ever seen a chicken flying? I don't know. Have you? Yes, I think when I was a kid. You see the way as a kid your mother tells you, enda upe kuku chakula. Enda upe kuku chakula. Like just go and distribute this maize to the chicken. And then you go and then they are after you. And then you try to chase them back, and then one is like trying to attack you, and you think it is a fly. So I will give you a very random fact about chicken that is not helpful to you, not to me, but it is a fact. So facts must be said. Chickens aren't exactly associated with being good flyers. They can fly short distances. They can actually fly short distances, but yeah, you will never see a chicken on top of a tree. It is not a bird. You will never ever see it on top of a tree. But it is a surprise, eh? It is not even a surprise because it's normal. The longest recorded flight by a chicken is just 13 seconds, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to 13. Just 13 seconds. It's like you're blinking your eyes and you're done. That's the longest a chicken has ever flown. Yes, that's the longest a chicken has ever flown. I know that's not helpful to you. It is not helpful to me, but it is a random fact in the agriculture industry that I thought you should know. We want to go on a very, very short break. We are not going on a long break, a very short break. And when we come back, we are going to look at the cause of losses, what is making us to lose food and experience this food wastage thing. We will look at the consequences, what actually happens when we actually lose food, and we'll be looking at the solutions, and then we will be wrapping up the show at the end of the show. We will be talking about our quote of the day in relation to our real life. We are real human beings. As much as we are talking about agriculture here, we will be trying to look at our real lives. We have to make sure we are in check in every sector of our life. We are taking a short break. Make sure you stay tuned in. We will be back in a few.
Mic check, unanisikia? Is my sound okay?
stand by in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. You are on air.
Join me, Conrad Kibe, on the Farm Drive every weekday from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. right here on A Farmers Media, where we tell you the story of an African farmer. We give you COVID-19 updates, and most interestingly, we give you the pan of the day. Follow us on all our social media platforms at A Farmers with a Z at the end on Facebook, and definitely A Farmers Media on YouTube. See you there. Allah. 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 Allah.
Beetroot is a highly nutritious root vegetable. The beetroot is the taproot portion of a beet plant. It is one of the many varieties of the genus Beta vulgaris, all of which are mostly grown for their edible taproots and leaves. Beetroot is a root crop that takes approximately 3 to 4 months to mature. Beetroot is a fairly easy crop to grow as long as the soil is well cultivated prior to planting. Beetroots do not enjoy wet, boggy or shady soils. Beetroot can be sown in trays and transplanted when the seedlings have 2 true leaves. Plant in full sun, space seedlings 10 to 15 centimeters apart, and rows 20 centimeters to 30 centimeters apart so they have room to grow. Beetroots are also ideal for containers or raised beds. Beetroots will happily thrive in small areas as long as there's at least 20 centimeters depth of soil. Beetroot has been used not only for food but also for treatment for numerous conditions.
Good afternoon. Welcome back. This is the Mid Morning Show. I am your host, Lillian Thomas. I am so glad that you actually joined us for the show today. And we have been having a very interesting discussion about food waste and food loss. And as we started the discussion, we had a few feedback coming in, and Machuki told us our problem is that we have bad storage conditions, bad storage facilities. that are actually making us to experience the food wastage and food loss. You can keep sending me your feedback. On Facebook, we are a farmers. On YouTube, we are at a farmers media. I have given you, before we went on the break, I gave you an illustration of Kenya. In 2017, we had hunger in the country, we had starvation in the country. But at the same time, we actually lost food. We actually lost food in the country. We lost 6 million bags of maize that same year. We lost 1.6 million tons of food in the same year. Yet we had hunger and we had starvation in the country. Where is the gap? Why are we having this gap in our world today? Why are we having this gap in our world today? We have SDG goals that we are working towards, especially towards by 2030. Yesterday we covered zero hunger. Zero hunger is the second SDG goal that we are working towards. We hope to attain zero hunger by the time we are getting to 2030. Okay? And then we have the 12th goal that we are actually talking about today, which aims at ensuring sustainable consumption of food. Okay? These are goals we are supposed to be achieving by 2030, meaning there is a problem somewhere in these goals that we are actually supposed to be working towards. We have cases of food insecurity in our countries and in our world today, yet we have cases of food loss and food wastage. The gap is still here, and that's what we want to be talking about. We try to figure out what is actually making us lose this much amount of food. What can we do? How is it affecting us when we lose food? How does it affect us as a world population? What can we actually do to solve this crisis of food loss and food wastage? And I said before we went on the break, we are two different people. The developing countries are losing food while still in the supply chain link. The developed countries are losing food at the consumption level. So we are operating in two different ways, but at the end of it all, we are still losing food. We are still losing food. Our quote of the day is one day at a time. One day at a time. Just have it in mind. Just have it in mind. We are coming to it at the end of the show. We will be talking a little bit about it. I told you we are normal human beings, eh? We will just try and relate this with our life and with this agriculture industry that we are in as we try to solve the issues we have in the industry. Before we also went on the break, I told you the reasons that the Kenya National of Bureau Statistics gave us for the food loss that we experienced in the country in 2017. So they talked about aflatoxin, which is relating to the storage conditions. They talked about the transportation issue, and then they talked about management. I want to discuss a general view of why we keep losing food in the world today. Now, I'm not even being specific about Kenya. I want to talk about the world today, the whole of Africa as a continent. Why are we losing food? What is actually making us to lose food? And I said this thing actually starts from the production level. From the production level. Before we are actually getting to the harvesting period, and then we get into post harvesting. So we are at the production level. At the production level, the activities you do, the agronomic practices that you maintain in your field matter a lot. They matter a lot. We keep talking about when you are planting, use clean seeds, use certified seeds, use variable seeds. Use actually plant a seed variety that is conditioned for your area. Okay? We have seed varieties that are conditioned for hot areas, seed varieties conditioned for cold areas. You just don't take any seed and put it in your field. No. And if you're not too sure of what you're supposed to be doing, when you are buying your seeds, they are usually labeled. There is no seed bought that is never labeled. They are usually labeled. They actually even tell you the places in which you can grow your seeds. So make sure we are using certified seeds. Let's buy our seeds. This habit of I take maize from my previous harvest and then I take it back to my shamba. You maybe you're taking back deceased maize, deceased seeds, and they will affect your crops in the long run. So the seed variety that you planted from the word go, was it conducive for your region? Will it give you maximum productivity? Will it grow to have the quality that it is needed? Like, will you be having the right quality, the right quantity, especially for people who are doing something like for export markets? Will it be the right quality, the right quantity? Yes, no, okay. The agronomic practices you are practicing in your field. How well are you managing your field? We keep talking about the things you need to be doing. Fertilizer application, because food, this is crops are like human beings. As much as you need food, crops also need food. And their food comes in terms of nutrients. Nutrients in terms of nitrogen level, potassium level, phosphorus levels. And you can only know these by soil test, okay? Are you providing enough nutrients for your crops for them to grow? Ama, I am not giving my skuma wiki enough nitrogen yet. I know skuma wiki actually encourages vegetative growth. It needs a lot of nitrogen. I don't give it enough nitrogen, and then I have small sized leaves, and then someone else is bringing big sized leaves in the market. Do you expect me to buy your leaves? No. Definitely, I will go for the better quality because they did what they needed to do right. Their spacing was right, their fertilizer application was right. So at the end of the period, they have good quality produce from the size to everything else. Even the presentation, how does it look? Is it presentable? And you see, like things for like nutrients, your nutrient application can actually help you in managing pests and diseases in the field. Most crops that lack in nutrients, they are more prone to be attacked by pests and diseases. Did you know that? No? Okay, now you know. How are you doing your thing? So this is at the production level. Because whatever I am doing at the production level actually will determine whatever I will be harvesting. Whatever I harvest is determined by what I am doing at the production level. If I am not doing things right in the production level, it is more like, I don't want to use this example, garbage in, garbage out. Okay? The little that you put in is the little that you get out. Sour. The little you put in is the little you get out. You're applying less nutrients, that's exactly the kind of produce you're going to be getting back. Okay? And it will determine the quality of whatever produce you have. I am a consumer. Personally, as a consumer, if I come to the market and I want to buy produce, I will most likely pick the best quality. No, it's actually I will pick the best quality. A big size lift, a lift that actually looks good. You can see that no pests and no diseases. Everything looks brilliant. I want fruits, I want big sized fruits. It all starts from production. If we all, as consumers, come to the market and then we are only getting produce that we think is really good quality, and you are here with your bad quality produce, where do you expect to take your produce? Because you decided you're not going to give them, the consumers, whatever they need. So you bring us, what do I call it? Substandard. It is substandard. For me, that is substandard. You can't bring me substandard goods and you expect to be paid for that. Mm-mm. It won't happen. So we will leave you with your produce. The moment we leave you with your produce, where do you expect to take it? This is fresh produce we are talking about, especially for someone like in the horticulture field. You are growing fruits and vegetables, which need to be sold when still fresh. And then you make a mistake of bringing us bad quality things. And then we decide we are not buying. Where are you supposed to take them? You will end up throwing away your food. Eh? That's how we keep losing food here in the country. You bring us bad things and we can't buy bad things. Let me tell you, the consumer has power. The consumer has power. This is their money they are spending. There is no way we are spending money on substandard products. No. Not if we can actually find something that is of good standard. We will leave you with your produce. You will have nowhere to take your produce. You can't consume all of it at a go, meaning you will make losses. You will end up throwing your produce. So this all goes back to the pre-harvesting period at the production level. Whatever you're doing at the production level actually determines if you might make losses or not. You have produced. We are at harvesting period. How do you harvest your produce? How do you handle your produce after you've harvested your produce? How do you handle at what there are very many things. I think this a whole discussion that we look at post harvest. It is a whole topic we will be covering that on some day. um there are specific times during which you can harvest your produce, especially for things like vegetables. You are told to harvest them in the morning. Vegetables, flowers, you are told to harvest them in the morning. But you come and harvest your produce in the afternoon. Zimegongwa na jua. Ha! By the time someone is looking at the kind of things you bring into the shamba. Have you ever seen mboga mchana? Like, go to the shamba and look at the vegetables in the farm during the day when the sun is overhead and compare how those vegetables look in the morning. In the morning, they still have a little bit water, they look fresh and stuff. And then you come and harvest in the afternoon. Alafu plan ni gani? What is your plan? Unapangaje? What do you intend? What do you intend on doing with those vegetables? Like, what are you planning? It doesn't even make sense. So, like, the harvesting conditions actually matter. After you have harvested your produce, how do you store your produce? How do you store your produce? We've given an example of maize. If you harvest maize and you don't store it in dry conditions, you end up storing your maize in very humid conditions, they are most likely to develop aflatoxin, right? Your maize can't be consumed. You have to throw away your maize. What are the conditions in which you are storing your produce? This is more about post harvest. I have vegetables. How do I store my vegetables before selling them? These are vegetables. They need to stay fresh. You need them to be cooled down. But you instead cause to cool down your vegetables. You are most likely very, very much bound to make losses from your produce. The way you handle your produce after harvesting matters a lot. Make sure you are giving the right condition for your produce. Maize. There's something here Machuki has said. Machuki says the government in Kenya keeps saying, "Oh, we will bring new storage facilities. Oh, we will do this. Oh, we will do that because we are losing maize to aflatoxin." Do you think it's something the government should be doing? Okay. No? Yes? Okay. Is it something you as farmers can try and come together and try to do? Is it does it make sense? Can you come about as a cooperative and try to get better storage conditions for your produce? Okay? Like, have these things in your mind. Sometimes you might be waiting for the government to bring you the solutions when you as the people can actually find the solutions yourself. And what are you doing about it? In storage, The storage conditions you have matter. And don't forget, they actually matter in maintaining the produce fresh or not staying fresh. But don't forget also, we have pests and diseases that affect our crops while in storage. You have to keep that in mind. You see, like for the fungal infections, like we've said for maize, aflatoxin is caused by a fungi. It is caused by a fungi. So we have these cases happening, which actually impact if we will make losses or not. Now we have stored our produce. The next thing we are doing is supplying our produce. We are trying to get our produce to the market. I assume you are at point A, the market is at point 2. So you need transportation between point A and point B for you to be able to sell your produce. Okay? Between point A and point B, what method of transportation are you using? How do you pack your produce as you transport it to the market? Are the vehicles you're using, do they have storage facilities like say for things like vegetables that need to be stored in things like fridges in very cool conditions? Do they have the facilities? Okay. How passable are your roads? Does it take you a shorter time to get to the market or it takes you a longer time to get to the market? This has been a very big problem, especially in Africa. Hey, Africa, you. Africa, our land. Hmm? Africa, our mama land. We've had, we are a developing continent, so we've had cases of poor infrastructure over the years. But I am glad several countries right now are actually making efforts towards improving the infrastructure they have in their countries, which is a very good thing. We are proud of our leaders and whatever they are doing. Now we want it being done even more. Let it not be in the major roads. Let it get to the Mama Mboga back there in the rural village. You know, like the local Wanjiko, the local Kemunto Ukondani. Yes, we need to access those people. Are the roads possible to them? Because we want to reduce the time they are using as they try to get to the market. We want to make them have an easier way of accessing the market such that it's not like they will be stuck. Let's say for people like producing dairy products like milk. I'm a vegetable. Let's talk about vegetables. And then you are back huko mashambani and you are in a very remote area. And in this remote area, the roads are not passable. Alafu, you have your produce. Your produce should be leaving in the morning. And then it rains at night. And then what? What do you do? How do you actually get your produce out of point A to point B? It has rained, the roads are impassable. What do you do? How do you manage whatever you have at this point? If you don't have a method of managing it and you can't access the roads, so you're not accessing the markets, you can't supply whatever you're supplying. Most likely you will remain with your produce. The moment you remain with your produce, you are going to be throwing it away. Sawa. You are going to be throwing it away. Is that what you want? No. Do you want to make losses like that? No. Who do we hold accountable for this? Our government. And that's the work of the government. Make the roads. That's what they need to do. You know, there's this comfortability that people have. You have a leader. This leader that you have, not bringing any progress to your region. And then during elections, you get back the same leader. No, it doesn't work like that. In the morning, I listened to someone calling on radio and they were saying how they live in a certain region. I'll not mention the region. They live in a certain region. This certain region, a transformer was brought like 2 years ago. 2 years ago. But they still don't have electricity to date. And you have leaders. You have leaders. You have MPs, you have your governors. What are they doing? That's what they should be doing. Let's keep our leaders accountable. Let them improve everything we need. If we need infrastructure for us to access the markets, let us get that being done. So, transportation is another challenge that most farmers are facing that is actually make them make losses in terms of food, and the food, how it gets to the market. It actually affects a lot. If we cover the transportation thing, and then we have marketing. Marketing is another whole topic that I think we covered at some point. Was it 2 weeks ago? 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, we had a case of a farmer who was complaining about brokers. And our page was blowing up. Our African Farmers Club page was blowing up with comments from the farmers. And every farmer, we realized that most farmers were complaining about the brokers in the market. So we produce food, we are selling food at less prices to the consumer, to the broker, because we can't access the market. The brokers run the market. They are cartels. If I come with produce to the market, no one is going to buy it from me. We have a cartel, of these brokers who are actually running the market. So marketing is a very, very big challenge to the producer. The producer produces food, and you see, if I produce food, let me say I am producing a head of cabbage at 10 bob. And then I have a broker coming to me. That was the example we were given by this lady who actually posted in our page. And then we have someone coming, a broker comes and wants to buy my cabbage at 6 shillings. And you see, these cartels are running the market. So I can't access the market. No, I can't access the market. So it's either I take whatever he is offering me, ama I stay with my produce, by the way. It is a two-way thing. Take whatever he's offering you, ama stay with your produce and figure a way out with it. And at that time, you have like bags of produce that you can't consume on your own, that you don't know where to take. Like, you are confused as a person. You don't know what to do with the produce that you have, which is rather confusing, very, very confusing. So, as a producer, most probably, you might decide, instead of me taking this, selling this produce at a throwaway price, I'd rather just even, kwanza this specific farmer said, I'd rather cut back my cabbage and use it as manure in the farm. She'd rather cut back her cabbage and use it as manure in the farm. And we will keep having food insecurity crisis if we are producing. And then even this, whatever we are producing is not even getting to the market. We are staying with it. It is getting rotten. We are losing it in the field. So marketing is a very big challenge that we said the government should find a way of trying to get brokers out of the way, the farmers to have an easy time, for them to sell their produce and avoid this thing of making losses. You are having marketing challenges, you can't get to the market, now you have to remain with your food gets spoiled, it gets rotten, and then you throw it away just like that. That business is done. And then you're making losses. It is not working. It is not working for you. There is another thing I thought about. I actually remembered. You see, our mid-morning host, Noana Sele Kadima? Yes. Noana Sele Kadima has a very interesting story. So when he got into farming, he started with actually doing cabbage farming. And then he planted cabbage. How many? 75,000 cabbages. He planted 75,000 cabbages. And it was a contractual type of farming. Like the way someone comes to you and they're like, do this, grow for me 4 acres of cabbage. So you invest, you grow your cabbage, you are assured at the end of the period, this person wanted 4 acres, so I will get my cabbage and give it to him. In the last minute, hey, the guy bailed out. The guy is nowhere to be seen. The guy doesn't want the cabbages anymore. The guy doesn't want the cabbages. He has nothing to do with them. And then you're left stranded as a farmer, as a producer. Where are you taking this produce? Like, umepanda 75,000 cabbages. Hata we mwenyewe huwezi kula. You can't consume a whole cabbage in a single day. Now you have 75,000 cabbages. Who are you supposed to be taking them? Who are you supposed to be selling them to? Even if you were to give them to your neighbor, you will give your neighbor today, tomorrow, and on Wednesday, they're like, we've had enough of it. That's just enough of it. We just don't need any more of the cabbages. You decide you're feeding it to your livestock. Ah, zitafika zitakata, by the way. They've had enough. They don't want. Mm-mm. You do whatever you want with your produce. Like, it is hard. It is hard. So I know it is another challenge most farmers have faced. Sometimes you make contracts with people, and then the last minute they bail out. They are nowhere to be seen. Oh yeah, sorry, akipoleni. But it is happening. It has happening right here. The moment you're left stranded like that, and you have too much produce, and you have nowhere to take your produce, you are most likely to make losses from these produce because you can't sell them, you don't know where to take them, you are stuck with your produce. So most probably they'll rot because I am thinking if you have fresh vegetables and you are left with 75,000 cabbages that you need to be selling, like quick time, in real time, you're supposed to be selling it in real time. Alafu huyu msee ameenda adai form by the way, ameishia tu hiyo story ya amemalizana nayo. It becomes hectic. So the challenges that farmers are facing that are actually making the losses in the industry are too many. And you see, the moment we have these losses in the country, one, our food security is affected because if we are producing food and then we are losing 6 million bags of maize which were meant to be consumed by the people we have in the nation, meaning we have less food consumption. Food security, pap, hindered. We don't have food security in the country. Our food security gets disturbed the moment we are having food losses in the country. Talk about the farmer. The farmer economically is going at a loss because you see, we say this is a business. You invest, you're supposed to be getting something back. Input, output, eh? But here you are having input, no output. The farmer is not making profits, and we keep saying it has to be economically viable for the farmer, economically profitable for the farmer. We don't want this thing of making losses here and there, here and there. No, like to go 21st century. We are in the 21st century. We should be able to maneuver around these things. And even as a country, as a whole, you make losses. Like the economic, you make economical losses that disturb everything, how it is functioning in the country. Have you ever realized when you have less food in the country, the prices hike, the prices go up, pop, they are going up day in, day out, day in, day out. Prices are going higher, 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 higher. And then yesterday, we talked about something like we have people in the ghetto who are living in less than $2 per day, less than 200 per day. And the food prices go high because of losses we've made, because of the food losses we've made, and we have little food in the country. So the country is insecure in terms of food. The prices go high. Why then would we be surprised when we have cases of hunger and starvation in the country? These are the reasons why. These are the reasons why. But then again, what can we do? What can we do as farmers, as people in the agriculture industry, as stakeholders, or as the government, if you are in the government? Or what can we do to try and help curb these losses? One, we started saying by saying about the what we do in the production level. So it is pre-harvest. I believe in the power of sharing information. I believe in the power. I don't know if someone is giving me feedback. Okay. I believe in the power of sharing information. We need to educate our farmers. We need to educate our farmers on how things are being done. Um, some farmers don't even know you need to be buying seeds that are viable for your climatic conditions. We need to educate the farmers. We need to pass this information. This is what we do. This is how you get a seed variety. This is how you plant. This is how you do the spacing. This is how you do the nutrient application. This is how you do. This is how you do. Like every step of the way, they should be guided. Extension services come in handy. So the government should actually make use of the extension services, invest more in extension services if we are to make something out of our agricultural production. So the government should be investing in extension services. And we had another discussion, another day that we were saying the way discussion, the way we have very few extension services in our country right now. And we think it's something that should be dealt with. So let's train more people to train the farmers on extension services. And then because we can't always do an individual, if we're only going to one single farmer, another single farmer, it is a lot of work. If we can do group education, collect farmers, walete pamoja, walete wakalishe chini, teach them this is what we do, this is what we do, this is how we go about, follow up, make sure they are doing the correct thing. By the time we are getting to harvesting, these people, everything we have in the farm is superb. Everything is perfect. Everything is good as it should be. So we are at a harvesting period. What can be done at harvesting period? Have we taught the farmers about how they should handle their produce once they've harvested? It's another area we need to teach them. Let's teach them about post-harvest handling of the produce. And also invest in the techniques, invest in the technologies that we have that we can be using to store our produce, to maintain the freshness, the quality, and everything, and make sure that we are not making losses because of the post harvest handling. So it's up to the government to come back again because you see, the post harvesting equipment may not be very affordable to every farmer. But these small scale farmers are the ones who are actually contributing to major supply of food in our country. What if as a government, what if as stakeholders came together and actually invested in post harvesting technologies for the farmers? Get them coolers, get them refrigerated vehicles that they can be using to transport their produce. Let's make these things easier for the people we have. Another thing I thought of, value addition. Value addition. We all know if I have mangoes, they have to be sold by this time and consumed by this time, or else they will start getting rotten. They get overripe and then they start getting rotten. And then we teach farmers about value addition. If you have too much produce and you can't sell all the produce once while it is fresh, what if we added value to our produce? Let us process our produce and add value to them. What if I made juice out of my produce, and juice that can last longer than the way the fruit would last on its own? What if I had tomatoes and I decided to make tomato paste out of it? I decided to make tomato sauce out of it instead of me having my tomatoes getting rotten because of a few mishaps here and there. It is a lot. It is a lot. But value addition, it's one thing I think every farmer should be opening their eyes to. You, as a farmer, what do you know about whatever you are planting? How can you add value to it? By the way, when you add value to your produce, you make more profits. Mhm. The price at which I buy tomato sauce and the price at which I buy tomato paste is not the same price at which I buy raw tomatoes. No, so it is more profitable for you. So you do your maths. You do your maths. You do your maths. And I've said this thing of let us teach our farmers as a group. It makes it easier for us, especially if we are looking at it in terms of economic, time, and everything. Let's teach them in a group. And when we have these groups, we are trying to find solutions for the farmers. For example, we have vegetable farmers in Nyandarua County. And we decide we are going to have one big storage facility for vegetable farmers in Nyandarua County. So these farmers, they harvest the produce, they come to the storage facility, they store their produce. Sawa sawa, they store their produce. We pay them. You bring us your produce, we measure the kgs, we pay you. We store the produce in very conducive conditions. We go and sell the conditions in the markets. More like working in, I don't know, it's not even an agricultural cooperative, but we're trying to make work easier for the farmer. Because I am thinking, if I have a farmer and this farmer is actually has only produced 10 kgs of the vegetables, and they still need to be sold, right, in the right conditions, in the right quality, and the market is far, instead of this farmer having to, you are getting from Nyandara trying to get to Nairobi to sell 10 kgs of vegetables, which doesn't make sense. Why don't you bring the vegetables? We store them here, we buy them from you, we pay you, you go back. We take these nini wherever you want them to be taken to Nairobi, and that's good for you, right? Right. We have a lot of solutions that we can be using to solve the food loss crisis we have. We need to attain the 12th SDG goal, which is about ensuring we have sustainable consumption of food and produce that we have. As farmers in the agriculture industry, we need to achieve this in order for us to attain zero hunger in the world by the time we are getting to 2030. This has been a very interesting discussion about food loss and food wastage. Okay, I can't say, I don't think someone else has given me feedback, but thank you so much for the people who've been watching up to now. So, as we are wrapping up this show, I want to remind us about the quote of the day that we had today. Today, we've been talking about food loss and food wastage. And we've realized that actually we have a lot of food being wasted and being lost within the chains, either during the supply chain or at the consumption level. Okay? And we have 30% of food is being lost. 1.6 billion tons of food is being lost each year in the world. Too much losses. Too much losses, yet we are complaining about food insecurity day in, day out. Yet we aim at achieving zero hunger by 2030. The statistics of hunger crisis we have in the world are alarming. We have 795 million people sleeping hungry each night. We need to do things differently. We really need to do things differently. We really need to find solutions for the farmers to ensure that they are not making losses from their produce. Right? Yes, and that's what we've talked about. I hope there's something you've learned from whatever we've said, and there's something you can do about it. There's something you can do about it. Yesterday, I told you, make today matter. Make today matter. Make sure your actions matter. They count, they count, they count. Especially right now, if you are in the agriculture industry, make sure you are contributing to something. Yeah, make sure you are. So, back to our quote of the day. We are wrapping up the show. Back to our quote of the day. Our quote of the day was saying, one day at a time. One day at a time. And I told you when we started, I felt like most people are pressured. We live on the fast lane. You want to accomplish too much at once, which is not possible. We want to accomplish too much at once. What if we broke down everything we want to accomplish into steps? Kidogo kidogo too. Like, let's achieve kidogo kidogo. It's a progress thing. It is a progress thing. And that's what we want to do. Achieve everything kidogo kidogo. You see, even for the SDG goals, they didn't wake up one day and decide, oh yeah, you people, we are supposed to be finishing, we are supposed to be attaining this thing by tomorrow and it's sorted. No, they actually made a plan about it. We'll do this by 2020, we'll be at this level. By 2025, we'll be at this level. And then by 2030, we will be at this level. I told you about the Big Four agenda in Kenya. Like they planned, we are at this condition, but by 2022, we are aiming at get this place. You have to take everything one day at a time. Live each single day at a time. No pressure. Don't be pressured by anything. Don't try to actually overachieve everything within a very limited amount of time. It's one day at a time. And even right now, as we are talking about food loss and food wastage, it is one day at a time. Let's start changing these things kidogo kidogo. We start by training our farmers. We have everything right in the production process. Good. Let's now get to the next level. Let's train them about post harvest handling. We get it right. Hola, let's go to the next thing. Sindio, we get to the marketing thing. We solve the marketing challenges. Like everything, we do it as a process. As a process. It is one day at a time. One day at a time. If you are feeling too pressured with whatever you're doing, remember it is one day at a time. One day at a time, you achieve a lot. You actually get to understand the process. You get to understand and appreciate the process through which you are going through before you get to wherever you want to get. Okay? Yes. So that has been our discussion for today. We have more shows coming up as usual we have more shows, so we will be having Conrad Kibe coming in for their farm drive at 3 p.m. to 5 p.m., so make sure you are catching Conrad Kibe for the next show. But before we conclude the show, can I just remind us about the COVID-19, and then I give you a little bit of the updates, and then we wrap up the show. So, yesterday in Kenya, we recorded 981 positive cases in a sample size of 7,529 people. The positivity rate is at 13%. The recoveries are at 685 people. The deaths were 26. Okay. I am trying to look at something here. The positivity cases we had were 981. The sample size 7,529. Okay, the positivity rate is at 13%. I think in 2 weeks ago, I told you I was doing the COVID-19 updates again, and we realized the positivity rate was at 16%. And we are still, Badu, here struggling on this percentage thing. The numbers aren't going as down as they should be going. We need to be flattening the curve. We need to be flattening the curve. So remember to keep the precautionary measures that have been put in place for us. Put on your mask whenever you are in public. Let your mask cover your mouth and nose. Wash your hands regularly, 20 seconds. Sanitize if you can't wash your hands, okay? Keep social distance. If you have no business getting out of the house, make sure you are staying at home. Okay, yes, it is very vital for us to be able to flatten the curve. We need to, I always say, protect yourself, protect your family, protect your friend, protect the entire community. So it is a personal initiative that actually contributes to the ultimate joint effort of the people. Sawa. So you do it from your own level until we get this curve to a place whereby we can actually manage around. Hey, lockdown in Nairobi imetuchosha haki wadau, si tumalize tu hii story, like we flatten the curve, lockdown iishe. And then I will be back here tomorrow morning. I'll be back for the breakfast show at 8:30. Make sure you are staying tuned in for the show, and we will keep interacting. We will keep interacting. If you have any comments, any feedback that you'd like to share with us, please make sure you're leaving your comments in our comment section. On Facebook, we are Farmers. On YouTube, we are at Farmers Media. We will be sampling your comments even later, like in other shows. We will be doing that for you. And I said again, if you have anything that you need us to cover, please let us know. We will be more than glad to do that for you. Thank you for joining us. This has been the Mid Morning Show. I am your host, Lillian Thomas. Until tomorrow, it is a goodbye from me. Have a good day.